we see a hot brand like Honda.
Yes.
They still saw their day supply jump, and it went up by 14 days
Yes.
over a month, and that's a big increase over a month. All right, Ray. So we're seeing that inventory continues to go up across these manufacturers. We're seeing that U.S. new vehicle inventory ticks up to 2.81 million, and the two leaders right now, Stellantis, Nissan, the ones with the biggest problems. But we're seeing that the average day supply of inventory across all automakers is 80-day supply, and from what I know, is that they like to be between like 40 and 50 days supply. So we're seeing too many vehicles at dealerships that they can't sell. What's the fix?
There's two fixes. The first fix for all these massively overpriced vehicles that they've been selling or building is incentives, and not little incentives, but big incentives. I believe incentives crept up to about $3,600 or $3,800 on average last month, and that as a percentage of the transaction price ticked up to 7.7% of the transaction price was covered by some type of incentive from the manufacturers. When you think that 3 years ago the incentives amounted to about 2%, and then take into account 5 years ago, incentives made up about 11.5%. So we're getting closer to where we were pre-COVID as far as the size of the incentives and the percentage of the transaction price that is now covered by incentives. So that's the first thing. They've got all these extra vehicles. It's just going to take incentives to move them. And Stellantis is proving that with aggressive enough incentives, you can suddenly see your day supply go down. Hasn't gone down that dramatically, but it's gone down, which is causing euphoria for Stellantis dealers. And then the other thing, at least in my opinion, is a reversion to making entry-level vehicles in sizable enough numbers that dealers can actually stock them and sell them. So in my mind, those are the two things that are going to help move the metal, as they say.
Something that's in this article that I find very, very interesting is that we see a hot brand like Honda.
Yes.
They still saw their day supply jump, and it went up by 14 days.
Yes.
Over a month, and that's a big increase over a month. And we hear brands like Toyota, like Honda, these are the hottest sought after brands right now, and you would think that Honda wouldn't have a problem selling the inventory that they're getting to these dealers, but for them to have vehicles now stacking up more. I recently went to a Honda dealer and I did a video there, and they were out of space. And it's been very rare over the last 3 years for me to find a Toyota dealer, for me to find a Honda dealer that didn't have empty spaces, that it seemed like they weren't really selling the amount of vehicles that were coming in. So it's very, I think, telling on the market and on really maybe more of the consumer that we're seeing that even in the hottest brand like Honda is having a hard time with inventory stacking up as well.
And my guess is, if you'd have to look closely at what the vehicles are that are starting to stack up. I'm going to guess that it's not Civics that are stacking up. I'm going to guess to a certain degree there might be some higher end Accords that could be stacking up. You could probably see some higher end Pilots and what's their van?
The Odyssey. Yeah. What I saw when I went there were a lot of Pilots. There weren't a lot of CRVs. You think CRV is kind of the equivalent of like a RAV4?
Yes.
In Toyota's model, but there were a ton of Pilots. That's kind of a similar. It's not going to be an off-roady thing like the 4Runner, but your bigger SUV is your Pilot. And there were quite a few Odysseys there too. Yeah. So you're right about what they were actually stacking up on.
Yeah, and if you were to check, they're going to be the higher priced vehicles. So that's just so their lower priced inventory is probably The day supply is probably extremely limited and selling very quickly. And as the price points rise, the sales slow down. And when you go back to that article in regards to the 2.81 million new vehicles in stock, I think it's the $40,000 to $60,000 range that is one of the slowest moving groups of vehicles, according to that article.
Well, we can look at this right here. And it says across the number of the 7 automakers that they looked at, there was a 41-day supply of cars, and a 62-day supply of light trucks. So going back to price point, you say, okay, well, trucks. So what's the average price of a truck right now? If you look at F-150s, the big three, I mean, probably $60,000. Whereas it's over that.
Yes.
And the average price of a car is probably going to be somewhere around the $30,000 to $35,000 range, would be my guess. So yeah, at that point, it's absolutely price point where we can see the day supply of cars is down and the day supply of trucks is up.
And we know the average transaction price on a Ford F-150 or a Ford Series pickup truck is over $65,000. On Ram, the average transaction price was approaching $68,000. GM were the lower 60s. So yes, you're talking about between the $50,000 and $80,000 price points are the ones that are. It takes more time to find customers for those, and the reason it takes more time to find customers for those is because for the last 3 years, manufacturers have instead of broadening the market of people who could buy cars, they have shrunk the market of people who could buy cars. So there just aren't as many people out there that feel comfortable spending between $50,000 and $80,000 for a vehicle today. And so you have less people to sell to. You have more vehicles than ever and less people to sell them to. So yeah, that tends to create an issue for both the manufacturers and the dealers.
And check this out. So a year ago, there were 500,000 fewer vehicles, but the day supply was lower. So right now, what you have is you have more vehicles available, but you have a higher day supply, but you have more incentives right now than you did last year. So
yes, by a big amount.
Right. You have so much more money coming off vehicles. You can buy a vehicle 10%, 15%, in some cases 20% cheaper than what you could have bought it a year ago.
Yes.
But even with those incentives coming onto these vehicles from these auto manufacturers, the day supply is still worse now than when it was a year ago when prices were higher than what they are right now today.
And even with those incentives, the vehicles are still too damn expensive for too damn many people. And so at a certain point, it appears that you can price yourself right out of the market. And many of these manufacturers have done that. And what's the rationale for having done that? Well, that was to underwrite. They needed these high profit margin vehicles to underwrite their foray into the EV space. Well, perhaps moving forward, they won't have to allocate quite as much towards EVs in such a short period of time, which would allow them to then start producing lower profit margin, lower entry price point vehicles that could bring people back into the market. It's a hope.
All right, so all of you watching it here, I know most of you are not subscribed, so I need you to hit that subscribe button. Whatever we need to do to get you to hit that subscribe button, Ray will do it. So just hit it for us and let us know what he needs to do down in the comments to get you to subscribe. Yeah, and I can talk a little bit about how this is really not necessarily affecting, but a similar dynamic that's going on in the used car market. I'm a used car dealer. I sell cars for $5,000 and under. And what I can say is that the cars I'm getting right now are typically $500 to $1,000 cheaper than a very similar type vehicle that I would buy last year. But even with that, even though my prices are in some cases $1,000 cheaper for the very same vehicle this year than they were last year, there hasn't been an increase in demand from the buyer. And I think this is just really telling that, okay, even my customer level, which is a $5,000 and under customer, it's having the same kind of effect as these $50,000 and $60,000 truck buyers, even though the prices are cheaper. Like if we had prices last year, what we have today, people would be jumping over each other to buy buy that car for that price. But it's just the way that the market has moved, the way that people's pocketbooks have really moved, and they've spent so much money on things other than cars over the last year that there's no money left over. And the affordability crisis that we talk about all the time has gotten worse, even though prices have come down. And yes, we see it in our comments all the time. I'm not seeing prices come down. Prices have come down. You can get stuff 10, 20% off MSRP right now. You couldn't do it last year. Prices have come down. Maybe your negotiation skills are not very good, but that has nothing to do with the actual prices of the cars. They have come down. If you know where to look, how to research, how to negotiate, you can get better deals right now than you could a year ago. That's my side tangent. But even with those things happening in the market right now, affordability is still a worse problem right now because of how much everything else has cost in the last year.
Well, and we are entering the time of year where people allocate available funds to things other than cars. What do I mean by that? Well, we're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. That's a pretty big holiday here in the United States. We're 6 weeks away from Christmas. That's a huge holiday for people. So we're in the Christmas season where people tend to allocate their money towards gifts and other things, which means that they don't have as much flexibility to be looking at cars, even inexpensive cars that you sell. So it's a time of year that exacerbates the shopping habits and the affordability for a lot of people, because they want to use what available funds they have or what available funds they still have on their credit cards to purchase gifts for the holiday season.
I got to get something off my chest first. So you owned a golf store a long time ago, right? So I want to talk about the situation that we're dealing with in our economy. So we just went through an election, whatever. All the results don't matter to me. Here's what I need to be fixed, though.
Okay.
So my son is 6 years old,
Yes.
and just started trying to get him into golf. We went to the beach this past weekend, and we behind our hotel we had a little like pitch and putt, the par 3 course.
Yeah.
And he's old enough now that I can get him out on the course. He can hit every one of his balls. He's not going to hit them very far, but he can at least play.
Okay.
So he's grown out of his little like toddler golf clubs that he had. And so I was like, okay, well, we have this course right behind us. Let's play. So I didn't bring any clubs in preparation. So it's like, I need a little gap wedge. I need a putter, and let's get him a few clubs. We'll get a bag. We'll get some golf balls, and I'll use a golf glove so I don't get a blister. So we went to the golf store. I didn't even look at the prices. I just got clubs, 2 clubs for me, gap wedge and a putter, 3 clubs for him, a bag, like I said, the balls. How much would all of this cost, do you think?
Well, you're talking about, I believe you're in the Myrtle Beach area.
Yeah.
It is one of the golf capitals of America.
Yeah, and we went to a PGA golf superstore.
You spent 3 clubs for you, 2 clubs for him,
two for me, 3 for him.
Yeah, 3 clubs for him, 2 for you, a golf bag, a couple gloves maybe, and some golf balls. $289.
You are not even close. $705.
Brandon, I don't know how to break this to you. You got taken advantage of, my friend.
There was no dock fee. There was no nitrogen in these
No, no.
balls. I don't know what I paid for, but I
Well,
got to the register. Like I was telling my editor, I was like, I got to the register and I did one of those things that I always laugh at other people because they're not even aware of how much money they're spending. But I got
yeah,
to the lady, I said to the lady, no, that can't be right.
it can't be right.
That can't be right.
What I mean, you just to put it into car parlance for you, you were a laydown. Okay. There's what do you, if you're buying small clubs for, they have kids clubs that you bought for him.
Yeah, it was
Well,
kids
there's
club.
no way they're like $125 a club. I mean, come on. What
Nah,
did
they
you
were
buy?
like 40. They were 40 to $50 a piece.
Okay, so that's 3 times 50. That's 150.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was all my fault. It was my fault. And me and my wife. So we're not tight for money or anything, but we've always had this rule, even when we were poor, is that if we spent like over like $200,
Yeah.
it was like $200 back then, and it's gravitated to something higher. I think right now we probably, there's not a rule, but it's kind of unspoken between the two of us. If we spend like over $500, we're just going to give each other a call or something
Yeah.
before, just out of respect to each other. We have the same bank account. Just to know it's really out of principle at this point than it is about the money. But I didn't call her before this, and I got to I didn't think it was going to be anywhere close. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
And when I got back to the hotel room, I said, baby, you know all those stupid pictures you bought at that dinner show we went to a few weeks ago that I was mad about?
It was one.
It was one, but it was like $60 for this picture.
It was 45.
Yeah.
I said, you're off the hook for that now, and I spent $700.
The question is, how
On
much
golf
would I
clubs.
pay to be off the hook for a $45 picture?
Oh my God. That doesn't seem fair. I will say this. If I had you as a customer at my golf store, I'd still own that store.
Yeah, I would have definitely been a mark going into that golf store with I mean, this is my 6-year-old son who his first golf experience. I had to.
Okay, well then why haven't you made plans already to take him to Scotland so you can go play at St. Andrews, for goodness sake? I mean, if you're just going to piss away the money,
I might as well just send you a check, right? Yeah, well, let's get that golf store open back up so I can get a discount.
oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah.
Yeah, no, really, I would be raking in the money. I'd still have that damn golf store. Yeah, I could have used a few dozen customers like you.
I'm sure. All right, but we are here for automotive stuff for whatever reason. People will watch us to hear about some automotive news. So let's talk about something for me to come up with new business ideas. So that was one of them.
Well, you need to come up with better ones. Maybe you should open a PGA superstore. And
I just bought half their inventory.
Well,
$705 for 5 clubs. That's ridiculous.
Well, wait till you find out that you can get personal use from the various manufacturers, and you could have gotten that $705 worth of stuff for like $300 for personal.
How much? Okay, all right. We're going back to this golf club thing. What's the markup from the store? So I bought a gap wedge. I paid $175 for this Callaway gap wedge. How much did that store pay for that?
If I were to guess, 120.
Okay, so it's not crazy markup.
No, because these stores have to offer some type of discount. Okay, now if you're at a green grass pro shop affiliated with the golf course, you're going to pay full absolute retail. You know, I had at that time a Golf USA franchise. So the whole concept is, well, we're going to be cheaper than a green grass pro shop. So everything you sell at a discounted rate. You know, this goes back a long time ago. I did it from, what was it, 1989 to 1994, I think it was. So I remember having some woods to sell, and they would say, well, they sell best at $99. They cost you $75, and so you're not making any margin,
Right.
Buying it for $75 and selling it for $99. So if you're a discount store, my guess is on the name brand stuff at these discount stores, you're not making any margin. Where you're making the margin is on the off-brand stuff. Okay, I made it on Mitsubishi, and other off-brand. Palm Springs was another golf club manufacturer that I did business with. I'm left-handed.
So here's my problem. I golf left-handed also.
Yeah.
So here's my problem. So what Ron does, he's left-handed, but he plays right-handed just so he doesn't have to pay left-handed prices. That's why my my golf clubs cost so much, is because I'm wrong-handed.
No, they cost the same whether you're left-handed or right-handed.
I know my section was a lot smaller than all the other sections.
Yeah, that for sure. But the price of the clubs is the same whether they're left-handed clubs or right-handed clubs. Your problem was you went for the top shelf name brand stuff when you should have been going for some lower end of stuff.
Oh, but the top shelf stuff makes you play better, right? That's $175 club makes you a way better golfer than $100 club.
I used to tell my customers, all these game improvement clubs, between the game improvement woods that you could sell, and they go, oh, well, these woods will save you 6 strokes around. Okay, great. And then these irons, they're forgiven. The forgiveness of oh my God, they're such a forgiving club. They could save you 10 to 12 strokes around. And these putters, I used to tell the people, with all this game improvement stuff, by the time you're done, you're not going to have any strokes left to take. Just go to the pro shop, hand them the money, say, hey, tell me I had a great 18 holes, and I'll go home. There were no shots left to take.
Yeah, you just need to buy a bigger pencil. That's what makes your game better.
Well, either that or you need a good foot wedge.
Yeah. All right, I think we're officially off topic at this point.
Sorry.
That's my fault. I was bitching about how much I paid for golf clubs again.
Well, you paid too much.
He's just trying to block me from complaining about it, so he's just preempting.
Well, next time you want to buy golf clubs, you talk to me.
All right, let's get back.
Not that I have any friends left in the business, because I don't. Just saying.
Well, after this conversation, you definitely won't.
Yeah. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Tell every living person you know that they need to subscribe to Car Sense with Brandon and Ray.